And action. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 4077 tent. As I sweat my way through this video, had the dehumidifier running back there. It kicks off a lot of heat. I'm going to have to see what to do about that in the future. Not a lot of work on this space, but hopefully, as you know, I've been waiting for appliances to become available. So within the next week-ish, 2 weeks, I should be able to get those delivered and installed. I found a local place that direct to manufacturer, U.S. warehousing, all that stuff, so I don't have to worry about the massive global shipping crisis. But regardless, hopefully that gets done very soon and I can get back to some sort of normality. But regardless, we're going to have a little bit of a different video today because something came to my attention on the social medias where it's sort of the end of an era. Maybe. I don't know exactly what's going on, but this is in regard to DIY electronics, which is near and dear to my heart, analog electronics, which is near and dear to my heart, and musically related, which is near and dear to my heart. As a lot of you know, I'm a recovering touring musician, recovering from that terrible period of my life. No, I'm just kidding. It was wonderful. But as you know, if you had anything to do with music, the income curve for working musicians is basically a very slight rise until here, and then a massive jump for the well, I actually did the math on it. I think it's the top 0.2%, are making all that money. Everybody else, you're just the people down here. Hopefully they have a day job. The people that are further up the curve before it starts to go up, like you can make a decent living. If you're in this little Bend area, you can maybe even have a mortgage. But I was right at the top part of the flat, so just living basically from gig to gig, project to project. But it was a lot of fun. I love doing it. It's not something that you ever say like, hey, I regret that I became a rock star for a little while. Just not a lot of money. But with any corporation out there, or with any business, your idea is to, decrease your costs, increase your revenue, increase your profit margins, increase your throughput, all that sort of thing. So you get these situations where people who didn't really understand what was going on would just shove all these devices in your faces, like, pay for the reviews in all the magazines, pay for the covers, pay for the big full-page glossy inserts and that type of deal. Wasn't exactly what we all needed, but it's what they wanted to sell us. And the prices just started to go up and up and up. So in the 90s, if you all remember way back then, there was sort of this shift from the glam 80s, like big hair, pink guitar type of stuff, to more of the humble, grunge. It was like a return to blues and rock and roll, and people became interested in vintage gear all of a sudden because their favorite bands were playing old stuff. And it was this perception of like, oh, this old stuff is better. Okay, whatever. Mostly it was because of guys like, Kurt Cobain up in Seattle, who was, I think, an art student or something. I don't remember what it was that he was doing before starting Nirvana and making $1 bajillion. But he couldn't really afford decent new stuff, and he was left-handed. So go to a pawn shop, buy a junky old Fender Mustang left-handed or something like that, and just play it till it falls apart and then find something else. And as far as pedals, you just get whatever leftovers there were from 80s rock, or whatever leftovers there were from whatever was popular in a generation before. So a lot of like tube screamers, like Metal Zone pedals, like, Boss overdrives, things like that. But regardless, with the kind of coming of age of the internet in terms of like the World Wide Web, in the mid to late 90s, a lot of people started to discover that they could exchange information. And that's what gave rise to the popularity of a lot of things like that we deal with every day today. So, like Linux would never have been a thing in the capacity that it is without the World Wide Web, Same thing goes for audio electronics, which I'm very interested in. And so getting back to the income thing, people that didn't want to just buy the old stuff and see what they could do, you had guys that were buying 4 old fuzz pedals and putting them in a row because you just couldn't get enough gain out of one of them for the music they wanted to play, or the pickups were really weak in the guitars that they were getting, so they just couldn't get the proper amount of distortion, and you just get terrible hissing and noise. Gave rise to a mod scene of people who were taking these and hot rodding them a little bit, changing some of the capacitors so the low end was less tubby, swapping out some of the cheap components so that it would be less noise and whatnot. and also independent builders. So that, of course, gave birth to the DIY electronics scene. Not that it didn't exist before, but, in the capacity that it is today, or at least was until, digital started taking over again. And communities popped up around speaking about these things, posting schematics, posting service diagrams, posting modifications, talking back and forth about them. You got the birth of the boutique builders like Keeley Electronics and whatnot. But with a soldering iron, a little bit of practice and some 50-cent components, you could take a pedal that was previously useless to you and turn it into something useful. Or you could say, screw this, I'm going to build it from scratch. If you did a little bit of deeper learning and learned a little bit more about analog electronics and the math that's involved, you could design your own pedals from scratch. And there are a lot of guys that were doing that and are still doing that. So, of course, you need a market to find these things. Now, at the time, the online marketplaces were just coming around, like early eBay. A lot of people like me, we would just go around to ham radio meets. We would go around to old like television, tube television servicing shops and just buy all their old stuff. So we would get all these old, paper and oil capacitors. We would get all the old, carbon comp resistors or whatever we can get our hands on. Radio Shack was still a place that sold radio things. So that was always, even though they were ridiculously overpriced, like probably 2 orders of magnitude over what you could get when you order them, you can still run to Radio Shack and get some things to do your mods. So anyway, I don't know how many people built their very first, distortion pedals with 741 chips they got at Radio Shack, right? Or, TLO 82s, TLL 62s, 2L72s, whatever it was that they sold there. But it's a lot. And they sold little PC board, like perf board snippets you could build things on, and jumper wire, and all the solder you can eat. Don't eat solder. But anyway, from the marketplaces, from all that old things, we had middlemen that popped up specifically serving like mods and DIY pedal markets. So like Jack Orman was one of the guys that jumped on it fairly early. And another place you would get things was Small Bear Electronics. They're up in Brooklyn, and basically just a warehouse where they would order these things that are in demand by people. And instead of them searching all over the internet and trying to find these little old knobs and Hammond aluminum, cast enclosures and germanium resistors and diodes and things like that, they just would buy them all. You could buy a little baggie of 10 of them for a couple bucks, and then they would ship them to your house. Pretty simple. And I think they came around, I was still in school when they came around. It was a while back, like late 90s-ish. But regardless, they are made some sort of like cryptic-ish announcements on social media that they're probably going to be shutting down, or at least trying to pass it on to another generation, looking for an acquisition or a buyout. I don't think they're exactly sure right now, but I do know that they've been a service to the community. They've helped who knows how many thousands, tens of thousands of audio DIYers find those parts that they need so they don't have to waste time ordering, these obscure JFETs from, a wholesaler that's clearing them out in Japan and then waiting for weeks and weeks for them to get there. You can get them from Brooklyn, have them sent to your house through U.S. Postal type of a deal. So I'll post a link to their, and they don't know me from Adam, and I'm not getting any money from this, but I'm going to post a link to their shop down there. They're doing things like occasional grab bags of parts. They're blowing out certain things. And like I said, I don't know what the state of it's going to be, if somebody's going to acquire this warehouse with all the parts and then it's going to be rolled into something else. But regardless, I think they deserve to have a little bit of something from the community for everything that they put in. So if you can go there, just look around, see if there's anything you want, buy it up. I'm going to go over the website, see some things that I don't think would be very easy to find somewhere else, or even going away completely, and there's no more stock. That might be the only stock in the world. Who knows? And just grabbing them up, see what happens. I'm sure they're going to get slammed in these next coming weeks, and shipping is going to be backed up because I think it's like a 2 or 3 person operation. Man, I am sweating up a storm. Look at me. I'm gross. So be patient with them. I'm just planning on looking at some things, putting it in order, and when they get it here, they get it here. I'll even put them a note like, hey, if this doesn't show up for a month, that's fine. I know how it goes, man. Yeah, but I'll link their social media, link the website. They're legit. They're not rip-off artists. They definitely will send you the stuff eventually. They're probably just slammed right now. And that's really all for this week. I know my platform here is very small, but, just kind of do what you can to help out the people that helped out me and helped out thousands of other people. Helped an entire genre of, DIY building arise from nothing. Alex here, signing off, and we will see you soon-ish. Hopefully the next big stage is whenever I get in the new appliances. I can pull these out of here and then start building walls. That shouldn't take too long. See you later.